Now we're good.
Sick.
Got the questions now. So, welcome to the Stone River Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Appreciate you taking the time to join me.
Oh, of course, yeah.
We've been trying to make this work for a couple weeks and finally met up.
Yeah, finally able to put it on down through, so yeah, good.
Yeah. We're here at Mortar Rock in Berkeley. Just crushing some boulders and then skin's dead.
Oh yeah, it's super rough on the skin here.
Yeah, so
Incredibly rough.
could still climb, but the skin's saying no. So
I mean, you could if you taped all the pads up, but at that point it's like
you're risking the next week of climbing for
a pulley because you're yoinking so hard without the friction.
Yeah.
So
we figured it was a good time to stop.
Yeah.
Sit down and have a little chit. Perfect. So this is Easton, my good buddy. Why don't you kind of let us know about yourself, where you're from?
My name's Easton Dean. I was born and raised up in Canada. Moved down here when I was around 11, so basically 50-50 between Canada and the Bay Area. And yeah, I was introduced shortly after I moved down from my buddy, actually my cousin up in Canada, who was already climbing, route setting at the time. Took me into the gym. Didn't really connect with me as much, and then we went outdoor a few weekends later at a crag called Grassy Lakes out in Canmore. Wonderful spot to get an introduction if you're out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically kicked off since then, and yeah, I've been popping pulleys ever since.
So how old were you when you
when I really started? I quit hockey.
Oh.
So I was a goaltender in hockey.
Okay.
And then quit that when I was 14.
Yeah.
And then picked up climbing when I was 15 and been sticking with it since. So past 7-8 years.
7-8 years
around
you've been climbing?
Yeah.
Okay. You're the longest tenured climber we've had.
Oh.
Yeah. So let us know kind of about your climbing endeavors. What's
climbing endeavors?
Yeah, your max grades, whatever you want to do. Yeah,
and whatnot. Okay.
Everyone wants to know. That's what everyone's good at. Everyone wants that off the bat.
So started sport climbing.
Okay.
And that's where I originally kind of got my feet wet in terms of climbing. That was the first 2 years was top rope and leading.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually transitioned into bouldering. And that's kind of been the past 4 years or so.
Okay.
Kind of more consistently on bouldering. Max grade outside. It was 2 tries at a 12A.
Okay.
It's technically the hardest I've done. I haven't tried too much harder than that.
Yeah.
And then for outdoors, I put down quite a few different V7s.
Sweet.
Pulled quite a few different moves on some V8s and V9s, but haven't had enough.
Nothing's gone yet?
Not in the sense that it hasn't gone. I'm probably strong enough to have it go.
Yeah.
But I haven't had the time to spend a week or two at a place to get the big projects done.
You're just at the crag one day, and that's all you got.
At the crag one day, you get 7 sessions on it, and then, we'll come back in another year.
And forget all the beta.
So you're basically at square one, working through it all again. You might be stronger, you could pull a few moves higher, but...
Yeah. So 12A outdoors, V7.
V7, 8, I'd say outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the gym, it's a little higher.
Yeah.
I've sent 1.9, 110, or a few 9s, 110, and then a couple 13s.
Okay.
A couple 13s, but
a little easier to see the holds.
Yeah.
A little softer, holds, all that different stuff. And so you haven't pushed past those grades. Is there anything that's kind of holding you back from that? Do you have any
It's all my previous history of injuries.
Okay.
For the most part is why I haven't.
Yeah.
I've tweaked the A2 on my ring twice on my left hand, once on my right hand, but cumulatively worse than both of the two that were on my left.
Okay.
hyperextended my right middle finger, tweaked my A2 pulley on my middle finger, also tweaked my right pinky coming back from an injury post-COVID. So, like, in all, I've had, like, 7 or 8 pulley tweaks or injuries. Yeah. Worst one being 18 months of no climbing.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So...
yeah, that'll put a damper on progress for sure.
It puts such a big damper on progress, and then being able to train back into it, I'm always way more hesitant and probably under my max point of what I could be training wise, just because I'm quite hesitant on the previous injuries.
Yeah,
basically
flaring up something that
put
you back down in the ground. Okay, so and then just pulleys have been the injuries, or do you have any other injuries that have kind of held you back or anything like that?
In terms of like actually climbing injuries, no. Almost ruptured an Achilles.
Oh,
that's sky high of all places.
Oh, no.
Yeah, foot got stuck underneath the mat, so when I went to jump, just yoinked the Achilles.
Jeez.
So that put a damper in it. But other than that, other than like the occasional lower back tweak,
been pretty healthy except for your fingers.
Been healthy apart from the fingers, I'd say.
So that's like the most important part in climbing.
Yep.
Is having good fingers to pull hard. Okay, so you didn't have no fear of heights or anything like that.
No, my fear of heights were solved relatively quickly once I learned to trust the gear. That's going to be my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a new climber, if you're getting comfortable with heights, be able to get to the point where you can start trusting all your gear, like your harness, the rope. Once you develop that, then it's more exposure rather than heights, like being up so high on something rather than just fall far beneath you. Because the gear is going to hold. It's just, how big of a screamer you're going to take.
Yeah. So how would you suggest people, how have you come to trust your gear? Is there any process that you did, or just putting reps on it and just finally realizing that it's good, or what?
For sport climbing, there's no other way other than just take some falls, and same with bouldering. Definitely learn how to fall with bouldering. But I feel like to really get you comfortable, trad climbing will really help.
Yeah.
Especially in the sense where if you place something wrong, it could pop and you got a way bigger fall beneath you. Mm-hmm. But just knowing you placed it correctly and just more experience with placing gear, I'd say has really helped me be comfortable, especially when you start to get to some bigger routes and then bigger run outs, and it might be chill 5'8", 5'9" climbing, but you got a 40 section between your last bolt.
Yeah.
So getting comfortable with easy terrain is really quite big, but just knowing that the gear is going to hold you. Mm-hmm. Definitely knowing factor falls, I would say, will help you a lot. What determines the fall factor?
Yeah.
So fall factor is basically how much you're falling relative to the anchor and how much rope you have in your system. So if you're, you already got 5 bolts up and you got, a whole bunch of slack out, you're getting nowhere near to the anchor and you got a whole bunch of rope in the system. So that'd be, let's say you got 10 foot of rope out, multiple pieces, you climb up past it, maybe closing in on a fall factor 1. Mm-hmm. But let's say you get 3 pieces clipped, you got a whole bunch of slack out, and you're going to fall past where your anchor is, then that's leaning towards a 2, maybe even higher in terms of fall factors.
And you're trying to keep your fall factor around the 1.
Closer to 1, depending on how big the whipper is. Yeah. It's naturally going to go to 3 kilonewtons or something, probably closer to 4. Mm-hmm. But just knowing that if you fall relatively close to the anchor, it's going to put a lot more stress on it. Mm-hmm. And that's how you break pieces and break gear. Yeah. So just knowing, especially down low compared to your anchor, that's the biggest spot. If you're going to zipper it up down low. Once you get up high, you got plenty of extra rope to basically absorb the shock. Mm-hmm.
Getting comfortable with your hardware, your gear, helps overcome that fear. And you talked about trad climbing. Do you have a certain style of climbing that you prefer? I know you said you're focused more on bouldering.
Yeah.
But like if you were to take one style, it's like, oh, this is my favorite to do.
If I were to take one style, it would definitely be trad. I would give up bouldering, even how much I love my high balls. Just with trad, it's very freeing, especially in the sense where there could be no other bolts or whatnot on the rock.
Mm-hmm.
And using what you have on hand and what you know about knots and all that will help you, set up anchors and whatnot to get to the top of stuff. And it's just all different types of terrain that you'll experience with trad climbing. You'll get cracks, you can get, slabby stuff, or you putting little micro nuts in and, hoping it holds. But
yeah, it's a mental piece.
Mental piece, yeah. Gotta
mental
love your
pieces.
mental protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, but trad is just very freeing, gets you to climb everything. And if you are ever so inclined to take it into the alpine, you basically know how it's all set up, yeah.
I feel like as soon as we learned how to trad climb, it was like, okay, we can hit anything we want now. You're free to do whatever, so you can kind of pick and choose.
Exactly, yeah. And then it's all the more confidence in bolts.
Yeah.
Once you realize, oh, this little dinky piece I placed in the rock and gave a couple tugs on, held a big whipper.
Mm-hmm.
Bolts are even stronger than that, so it should give you more confidence, especially on sport climbs, to not take, but take the whipper.
Yeah, take the whipper, trust it. That's how you get your sends.
Yeah, if you're not falling, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. I love it. So then you're coming back. Are you doing any training right now to kind of push past where you're at climbing wise?
Yeah, there's always a little bit of training. I should be more focused on hangboarding, but I'm kind of a bit more training all over the place. So for me, it's hamstrings, tibialis, and then finger flexors and extensors. So hangboard stuff for pulling, which is your flexors.
Okay.
Your extensors are pushing out, so that's why I use a rice bucket, so I can get wrist mobility, working the extensors. So those are very underused.
Yeah.
And then tibialis.
When would you ever use the extensors in climbing? Is it more like in trad? Would you ever expand that?
Like
Do you find you use it?
Not so much extensors in pure climbing, but more in the eyes of injury prevention is why I do extensors.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get injured where you're strong. You're going to get injured where you're weak. And if you don't train both sides, then you're leaving your extensors really weak, so your flexors are overused. And then, all downhill from there. So
I like it.
It's not like you'll specifically use your flexors in climbing or your extensors, but having strong extensors will make your flexors stronger.
Okay. Sweet. I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the gym bros you see that do like all arms and no legs.
Yeah,
right? You gotta show love to everything.
Exactly, yeah. Because you're not going to get injured where you're strong. You're going to get injured where you're weak.
Yeah.
So if you don't train how strong you are through your full range of motion, then you're going to leave yourself susceptible to injuries, basically.
Okay. Have you done this kind of training kind of all throughout the climbing that you've done? Or is this kind of something more new recently?
That's been more new recently because I've been really trying to focus to just slightly get my fingers stronger over time.
Okay.
Rather than, look for gains each week in terms of like pulley strength, just because I'm really trying to work into it and, have them eventually build up. So what I've been doing since my middle two are always the weakest, weighted 2-finger hangs on a bar.
Okay.
So just relatively nice, but it really helps stretch the inside of the palm. There's all those accessory ligaments that come up off each tendon up in your hand.
Yeah.
So if you're pulling, this could be relatively comfy, but the moment you crank these guys down and begin to pull harder, you're going to feel more of a stretch in here.
Okay.
And that's where you can, tear something on the side.
It's kind of the same thing where like you can't like bend your finger without bending the other fingers completely right.
Almost.
kind
Like,
of?
if you train that, eventually you'll get to the point where you can keep most of them up and it won't want to flex because they're way more flexible in that area.
Okay, so you're trying to isolate them.
Isolate them.
Isolate.
So isolating in the sense where if I feel really strong on pockets and one fingers, then I know my finger can, take abuse, especially if I really start loading all four.
Yeah, if you
or
have
loading three finger open
together.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. I didn't know a lot of that stuff. You're also the first person to actually have somewhat of a training plan. Everyone else that I've talked to has been like, "Oh yeah, I just climb hard," and you also do that.
Honestly, as a beginner, there's no better way to get stronger. A lot of people say to stay off the hangboards within your first 2 years of climbing, which isn't terrible advice. Just because you really have to learn and figure out your body when you start loading it on a hangboard. So you should at least have some sense of, how much you can pull in terms of a hangboard before you really start it.
Yeah.
But, you're going to do better in the sense as a beginner if you just train more endurance rather than trying to train like power and physically get your fingers stronger. Because even you'll probably be climbing for the next 20 years.
Probably.
Your fingers will be stronger in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
They're only going to get stronger because they're so small. It takes your body so long to develop and strengthen those that just consistently climbing each week will do more to help your fingers rather than, hangboarding 1 day a week and
losing out on like gaining technique at the same time. And
losing out on gaining technique and body position and, rolling through your shoulders and, all the different nuances of the movement of climbing rather than just pulling hard.
Okay.
Especially if you start, just pulling hard.
Just pulling hard.
You're going to forget about the beta and you're just going to strongman everything.
You want all the training you do to be for climbing and be useful in climbing.
For climbing,
instead of just being strong in your fingers and not know how to climb.
Yeah, like I'm probably the one crazy nutso at the gym that trains my calves for toe hooking. And hamstrings and glutes for heel hooks.
I'm a big fan of having like strong legs. I feel like
it's a give and take with climbing because if your legs are so strong, it's a lot of mass that's down low, which you could, if your technique's fine, it could be okay, but it's still more weight you're pulling up the wall.
Yeah.
So, having big fat legs is going to be more inhibitory to climbing than I'd say beneficial.
I feel like even though like they're like you could argue that like, oh, you're going to be heavier if you're like strong, but it's like, well,
you got to be able to toe down.
You have to be able to just like get stronger all around,
and strong in the hips too, because hips will hold a lot of tension. So being able to hold the tension means strong in your body, and to be able to hold that will be really beneficial.
Yeah, and like we're not climbing like 15As. We're not trying to like set new grades. So maintain like a healthy body all around.
Yeah.
We're just weekend warriors. Gym during the week, crushing. I feel like playing into that. My legs are too heavy. It's just that's something that you shouldn't be worrying about at this point. To an extent.
It also depends on genetics.
Yeah.
Like for instance, if I were to start squatting even up to half body weight, my shorts get stuck on my legs because I just put on mass so fast.
Okay.
So I do stuff other than like the bigger exercises to still like hit those muscle groups, but almost hit them more as like a stretch while you're lifting rather than a heavy lift.
Yeah. Okay. So you're keeping them strong, but you're not trying to like just build the crap out of them.
Yeah, not trying to put like mass on, but making them stronger.
Yeah, strengthening them. Okay. We've talked about training, the injuries that you had, and kind of where you're at climbing wise. Kind of maybe a little bit lighter, but where has been your favorite place to climb that you've been, or favorite climb, and like why? Why is that?
Favorite climb and why?
And it doesn't have to be like the hardest, like, oh, my hardest climb is my favorite climb because it's the hard, like, just like,
so
if it was like experience that you had or whatever.
It's got to be Yosemite.
Yeah.
Just because all the different styles of, being really slabby and, foot technical, where you got to trust stuff that, doesn't look like a foot chip, like standing up on just that, basically. So it gets you really confident in your feet. And then just being in Yost is beautiful.
Yeah.
Buttermilks and Joshua Tree are right up there too, but I'm going to have to give it to Yost just because that's where, that was like my first big crag I went to per se. And just the scenery and climbing up it and just knowing that you're in the thick of it and the history all behind it. Like if you haven't watched Valley Uprising, just knowing that you're there with all the other climbers and the history that's been there, it's massive.
Yeah.
So I would say my probably favorite route in Yosemite is 5-8. It's called Nutcracker.
Nutcracker?
It's at Ranger Rock.
Okay.
It's just really chill climbing. I call it soul climbing. So it's just really chill, but it's just so much fun to get up on the rock, do those moves. Yeah, anything just relatively chill in the grades and long is always going to be an enjoyable day out for you, rather than, well, some people love to, like, flail hard on sport routes all day, but if I had to flail hard on a sport route or just have some fun soul climbing and just, getting some mileage in, I'd focus on the mileage rather than,
what
trying to hit 100.
Yeah. Kind of like going golfing with your buddies rather than going golfing to, like,
by yourself,
just
hit under par.
Yeah. It's way more fun on the weekends when we get a group going than just going out and just yanking hard.
Yeah, especially solo. Like, you're gonna have way more fun with buddies. You'll be able to rest more. You'll be able to, figure out some more beta and sequences.
Unlock some stuff. Makes it a little easier.
Way more fun if you have a good crew around you, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, we've been here at Mortar, and we've come with a group here twice now, and then we've gone, like, kind of all over the Bay Area now, and it definitely is nice because we'll get to talking and, like, oh, what about this, what about that, and it's just like, boom, because we'll be on, like, routes that we've done before, and it's like, this kind of sucks, and then, like, oh, I never thought of it that way, and then boom, it just goes.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, it's also nice having some rope guns out, especially if you have some newer people.
Yeah.
Because they're able to set it up, and, the newer people are still able to experience and figure it out, especially if they came up in a gym background. Definitely find yourself a good community is what I would say.
And then having, like, a couple rope guns is huge, too. Because if, like, you're the only one, it's a little...
They're going to be leading a lot.
Everything rests on you, right? And having, like, a good group where you can have multiple rope guns, multiple people leading, everyone has a good time, whether it's their first time or not.
Yeah.
Right? It makes it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about, like, community and stuff like that, we have a really good community at our gym, and you work at the gym.
I do, yeah.
So, how do you balance progression in your climbing with kind of all the other activities that you have going on, work, other stuff? I don't know. Are you going to school?
Not at the moment. Might be going back for physiology. So
nice.
That's also why I have a decent depth of, like, my training philosophy and understanding is based on, like, hopefully how the body operates or how I understand it to operate. So just the climber's experience.
You've done a lot of research on it.
Lots of research, because I've had to go through so much rehab. There's, 2 good supplements, you should take. The biggest one is Cissus quadranalensis, which is basically like a natural blood vessel dilator.
Okay.
So for your fingers, it helps open up the super small dilated blood vessels. Combine that with collagen type 2 and vitamin C. Sends all the nutrients that your pulleys need. Those have really helped me recover, especially since I didn't take them on my first 2 tweaks.
Okay.
And my following ones, I've taken them, and they've really assisted.
Seen a lot of benefits from that.
Seen a lot of benefits, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of community...
and balance.
balancing that.
You're climbing with everything else that you got going on.
It's definitely tricky working at a gym because you're there for, a full 8 hours and then figuring out when to climb after it is always a little tricky. So, new gyms. Taking off, like if I'm not working at DRG or if I have to work there, I'll climb there that evening. But on a day off, either ripping out to Mortar Rock here or, any other gym just to get a different change of pace will, lighten it up for you a lot.
And separate that kind of like workplace from...
Separate the work from fun.
Yeah.
Still, like, climbing should always be fun for you. I have fun training and suffering, so if I can, get on a crack or an offlet and really suffer on it, I find that enjoyable. But just when you can, and especially listening to your body on, the days where you're feeling a little bit more down, don't feel like you have to push it. It's basically, just, take it chill, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Because the moment, some people are really strict with routines on it, but if I'm like super strict on a routine and I'm not feeling it that day, I'll feel even worse because I was supposed to climb and I never ended up doing it. So as long as you have some type of malleable consistency, I'd say, in terms of climbing, where you're at least getting in like 2 days a week. If you're getting any more than that, you're, doing awesome.
Good,
just making sure you're, recovering and resting enough, getting some good sleep and...
Okay. But still enjoying it, right?
Still
You're
enjoying
not trying
it,
to just I have to get better, so I have to be in the gym every single day. Because you're just you're gonna burn out.
You're gonna burn out, and finding the community is huge because having someone to train with will just give you that fun motivation to improve rather than the self motivation to be like, okay, I don't want to climb today. I don't want to like campus or whatever per se. So finding a good training partner will help as much with the psyche to improve versus just being by yourself.
Yeah, a little friendly competition as well.
Friendly competition,
while supporting each other as well.
Yeah, just remembering that it's an individual sport. So if your friend can pull a move but you can't, don't be too upset at that.
No.
But
no, I like it whenever we climb with people that are definitely stronger than me, and whenever I climb with you as well. You'll like suggest something, or I'll see you can do a move, and I'll try it because I'm like, oh, and then like maybe I can't do it, but I can feel kind of what the reasons behind the move, and that really helps push through. So maybe not like competitiveness isn't it, but it kind of like helps you kind of push each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Further than what you would ever get by yourself.
Yeah, unless you're like someone like David Goggins, like having a buddy is gonna help you a lot.
Yeah. And I think in climbing, it's individual, but the community can help like expedite your progress.
Expedite that process,
so much more.
So it takes years to develop the movement and the feel and knowing how to move and position your body to make moves easier or make moves possible. And if you don't have that full understanding of technique and how your body moves, you're going to be stuck wailing on sequences where if your buddy was like, hey, just move your foot from there to there, even though it might be like 3 or 4 inches, could make the whole difference.
Yeah. So you work at a climbing gym, so I think you might have a little bit more of a perspective on how to help people who are getting into climbing, just because you work with people who are kind of at that stage. But what advice would you have for someone who's just getting into climbing or thinking about getting into it? How would you kind of persuade them to like, hey, come on, join this cool group of climbers?
My favorite thing to say is you're working out, but it doesn't feel like you're working out. So like you might be pulling and pushing with your feet, but it doesn't actually feel like you're doing like a set of curls or whatever, because your body's moving in all different positions. It allows for a lot of creativity, which I really enjoy, making some goofy moves and whatnot.
It's not this monotonous, just like, oh, I'm doing 4x6 sets or whatever. you're really getting that full body workout.
The full body workout, yeah, and just like being able to like move around and eventually figure out where your body's at, and how you're able to like connect, standing up with one foot, pulling with one arm, and engaging your core and hips to keep you steady to move. It's a lot going through your mind at that time, and you're not thinking about, oh, I'm pulling like 10, 15 pounds on this, like I'm cranking on it.
Pretty much a one arm pull up. You're not thinking about.
You're more thinking about like, okay, where do I need to have my feet to get my next hand up, and get yourself a pair of shoes. Don't be like, definitely wear a pair of rentals if you want for your first time or two, but you're gonna notice a huge difference once you actually get your own pair.
Yeah, that'll like bump up your experience.
It will double your confidence. Yeah, like one, you'll look like you know what you're doing because you got your own pair of shoes in your chalk bag, but you'll just generally be way more confident in terms of learning and trying stuff, because your feet are sticking rather than over gripping on the hands and hoping the feet don't slide off.
Everyone starts there though, right? Yeah. Everyone starts in the rentals, but if you're like, okay, this is actually intriguing and I want to improve, that's like first investment.
Yeah, step number one investment would be shoes, especially if you're a beginner. Get them comfy so you can wear them all day. You'll have plenty of years if you decide to continue to sport to downsize.
Get some toe crunchers.
But just get them comfy, get them so you can just enjoy a whole day and not worry about what's on your feet.
Yeah, I still have like shoes that I'm like, okay, these ones are ones that I can just like sit in all day and feel nice about and just have a good day at the gym or outdoors or whatever.
And you don't have to go out and buy a TC Pro for your first pair.
Yeah.
Get something nice and cheap. My first pair was the Tarantulas.
Yeah.
Velcro Tarantulas, man. $80 and last you quite a while.
Yeah, I think my first pair was just like in the REI discount bin. Like the swap in or the gear swap or whatever the heck it was. Just some black diamonds that were like super, super basically rentals almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they made a huge difference. And then you can decide from there if you want to improve.
Yeah, gym rentals suck and they're gross and nasty. And you don't know what other people
got it
been stepping in before they got in those shoes.
Living in that shoe. What is in all your years of climbing, has there been any experience or a life lesson that's kind of stuck out to you that would like apply to not just only climbing, but also to people that haven't climbed?
Yeah, for what I would have to say in terms of life lessons is, for me, when I was starting the sport, I was a super silent kid. Wouldn't want to go up to anyone and interact with anyone, just really quiet. Mm-hmm. And having that, connection between climbing, even with someone completely random, gave me a confidence enough, because we have like this kind of common ground where I can go up, introduce myself, ask for, beta or whatnot, or, ask if they would want beta. Don't just be spraying all the time.
Don't be spraying. I have a bad habit about that.
I'm terrible
I'm
at
so
it.
bad about
I'm terrible at it too.
I need to do better.
Yeah.
I need someone to get real angry at me for spraying beta.
Let me figure it out.
And then I'll be like, oh shoot, I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, so definitely just open up, making sure you're, feeling comfortable in the spot and gym that you're at. That's just the general lesson. In terms of climbing life lesson, be vigilant. Be vigilant and cautious, and redundancy is your friend.
Yes.
So being vigilant meaning you're not gonna, pull up and grab some crazy rock and rip it down on top of yourself like I have. It was like 60 pounds.
Shoot.
Thank God I was on a ledge and threw it off out of the way of my belayer. But
threw it off, hit the belayer, we're good.
Yeah, scraped up both my arms on both sides. I still have scars on my chest from it.
Dang.
So be vigilant in terms of what you're grabbing and looking onto, making sure you're doing your knock tests, making sure it's not, hollow, it's some good rock you're going on. And then in terms of redundancy, just always double checking how you are clipped into the rock before touching anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially after rappel, I had this happen to me last weekend.
Really?
Lowered off from pitch 3, unhooked from the wrap line while I'm standing right in front of the anchor, and I wasn't clipped in. There's still 2 pitches beneath me.
Jeez.
So thankfully it was like a little bit of a ledge, and once I realized, oh, I'm not clipped in at all, got my 2 points back in.
Wow.
And then that for me was a big learning lesson, being like, okay, redundancy, checked how you're tied in. So on the next wrap, come down, clip in, clove hitch. So making sure I'm in by 2, and then messing with the ATC and hopping off rappel.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Thankfully, it was like nice and chill, low angle. Like I'm thinking, it was like a 10B pitch with like a decent ledge that I was on. So, and if I were to fall, I might have died. But you just want to make sure that like you are double checking stuff, and so you're not having a realization moment like I am, where you're however many hundreds of foot up, and you're like, oh shit, I should probably be more safe about it. But and bring a helmet.
Yes.
Bring a helmet when you're climbing outside.
Yeah, you just got a new dome bucket.
I just got a new dome bucket because I almost got a nut tool, and an iPhone dropped on me on that same day.
It was just not a good day.
It was like
a day of close calls.
Day of close calls, yeah. Where there didn't need to be. So
probably in like a situation like that, like you'll probably felt like you were safe. Because you're on a decent ledge.
Yeah, like I felt like I was totally
I'm good. So maybe you're a little less nonchalant about clipping in.
We spent 3 hours waiting for a party. Out of water. We had one builder bar that we split 2 hours previous. A
little delirious
between the 2 of us. So it was like a little delirious, ready to get off the wall.
Yeah.
Because these 2 guys just had no idea what they were doing. So
come on, guys.
Especially at that time of day, or at that point where you're like fried, everything's going wrong, you're hiking out in the dark, all you got left is like a flask for the last little bit of hydration that you have before you get to the car.
Got to be extra cautious.
Got to make sure that you're always double checking everything.
Even if you're tired.
I
really appreciate you taking the time to...
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. It's been lovely. Hopefully I'm not, like, rambling off too much on random stuff, because
I forgot.
I got plenty of info in terms of climbing.
Yes. Tons of, like, training info,
biomechanics, that's all self-taught, so.
Yeah. I forgot to ask you. We'll finish off with this question. What are your goals? Do you have any goals for the future heading in climbing?
My long-term goal is to free climb a route on OCAP.
Okay.
So
long-term goal.
Big lofty goal. I'm gonna have to get into like being able to, toss laps on high 12s outside. So it's gonna take a lot of effort, long time. I'm gonna have to learn aiding and big wall systems even more thoroughly than I already know. So yeah, but I'm ready for the adventure, ready to learn, ready for the new experiences, and
you got a van in the works that's gonna help out with that.
Yeah, gonna be building out a van so I can actually spend time in areas and project long term. So I'm not doing what I'm typically doing. So yeah.
Sweet, awesome. Well, we'll have to have another episode with you.
Yeah, I might have to have round 2 eventually.
Round 2, double check, see how the training for the big wall, or if you get the big wall done, in between those episodes, we can.
That'll be a little lofty. I'm gonna have to really kick in the training plan. I'm gonna have to do that. But.
But get back, talk to you a little bit more, share some more stories of you ripping other blocks off the wall.
I got plenty more knowledge and plenty more goofy stories to tell. So yeah,
perfect,
awesome.
Appreciate it, and
keep on crushing.
And get some soul climbing in.
Get the little pizzazz. Train your calves.
Train calves. Yeah, that's the thing. There's straight up a wasp on you.
What's up, dude?